For over 15 years, my quiet neighborhood just outside Las Vegas had been a place of calm predictability. We knew every noise, every face, every flicker of light. But nothing could have prepared me for what happened on that night, when my sense of reality was shattered, leaving me haunted by something I still can't explain. It all started like any normal evening. I was lounging on my couch, letting late-night TV fill the room, my mind beginning to drift toward sleep. The desert air was cool, drifting through the cracked window. Then came a sound, a low, vibrating hum that rippled through the walls and into my chest. It wasn't like the usual hum of air conditioners or the helicopters we sometimes hear flying over from the nearby base. This sound felt alive, almost as if it was moving through me, pulling me in. Before I could fully register it, my attention was drawn to a sudden flash of light outside, blue-white and unnaturally bright. It didn't look like headlights or any normal street lamp. My first thought was that someone had pulled into the driveway next door, but this light was too intense, too strange. Curiosity got the better of me, and I slipped on my shoes and stepped outside. The air was thick, heavy. The sound had grown louder, vibrating through my bones. The light, it was coming from the Aguilar's backyard. Something was pulling me toward it, an urge I couldn't resist, even though every instinct was screaming at me to run back inside. As I approached the fence, I froze. Hovering in their yard was something impossible, a large disc-shaped craft glowing with an eerie light. It was unlike anything I had ever seen, its surface smooth, yet faintly translucent, as if it wasn't fully solid. There was no sound except for that hum, no movement except the shimmering light dancing across its metallic skin. Then I saw them. 3 figures stood near the craft, and they weren't human. They were tall, much taller than any person I had ever seen, easily 10 feet or more, their limbs unnaturally long. Their eyes were enormous, glowing faintly, absorbing the light around them. Their skin was dark and shiny, almost oily, and their movements were slow and deliberate, as if they had all the time in the world. I was paralyzed, unable to move or tear my gaze away from the scene unfolding before me. And then, one of them turned its head and looked directly at me. My body locked up, every muscle freezing in place. The air around me thickened, pressing down on my chest until it was hard to breathe. I could feel something foreign inside my mind, a presence that wasn't mine, something cold and calculating, rifling through my thoughts like a surgeon, dissecting me from the inside out. I tried to scream, to run, but I was trapped, pinned by that unrelenting gaze. The next thing I knew, everything went black. When I woke up, I was no longer outside. I was back in my bed, heart racing, my body drenched in sweat. Only 15 minutes had passed, according to my phone, but it felt like hours. My head ached, and a faint, nagging sense of something wrong lingered. I stumbled into the bathroom and froze when I saw it in the mirror, a small red mark on my neck, like a pinprick. My stomach dropped. What had they done to me? The days that followed were a blur of fear and confusion. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me, something far beyond human comprehension. I wanted to believe it was all a dream, but the mark was still there. And then, a week later, another mark appeared, this time on my arm. Fresh, sore, just like the one on my neck. What were they doing to me? I tried to go about my life, but the unease gnawed at me. Every night, the dreams returned, vivid, terrifying memories of being back in the Aguilar's yard, of those tall, unnatural figures standing over me, watching. They were doing something to me, but I couldn't remember what. Then, everything escalated. It was late April, about a month later, when the news broke. A local family not far from my neighborhood called 911 after seeing something fall from the sky around 11:50 p.m. They described 2 beings, tall, with big eyes and shiny features, lurking in their backyard. The family insisted they weren't human, and the police officer's body camera footage captured the same flash of light streaking across the sky that others, including people in neighboring states, had witnessed. The police arrived to investigate, but found nothing. Still, their story echoed my own experience, down to the unsettling description of the beings. I couldn't believe it. It was like a puzzle piece sliding into place, confirming what I had been too terrified to admit. They were real. These things, whatever they were, had been here, not just in my nightmares, but in my backyard, in my life. That night, I barely slept. The fear was suffocating. What if they came back? What if they had never left? And then the hum returned. It was louder this time, more intense, shaking the walls and rattling the windows. My heart pounded in my chest as I lay frozen in bed, knowing what was coming. The light flooded in again, brighter than ever, seeping through every crack and crevice in the room. The air thickened with the weight of their presence. I could feel them before I even saw them. The same suffocating cold, the same invasive presence slipping into my mind, rooting through my thoughts like they owned me. I couldn't move. The paralysis was stronger this time, pinning me to the bed as they came closer, their glowing eyes watching, studying. One of them reached out, its long, thin fingers brushing against my skin. My mind screamed, but my body wouldn't respond. Everything went black. When I woke, it was morning again, just like before, but this time the marks weren't just on my neck and arm. They were everywhere. Tiny red dots scattered across my skin like a map of the horrors I couldn't remember. The bruises were faint but undeniable, as if something had been gripping me too tightly during the night. I was no longer in control. I wasn't safe, not even in my own home. I didn't go to work that day. I couldn't bring myself to leave the house. I sat by the window staring at the empty street, waiting for the next time they would come for me. The fear was suffocating, a constant weight pressing down on my chest. And then, late one night, the hum returned for the final time. Louder, deeper, more invasive. The light flooded the room, and I knew this time would be different. I was no longer just a spectator in my own nightmare. I waited, helpless, as the shadows crept closer, their glowing eyes piercing the darkness. They had come for me, and I wasn't sure I would ever wake up again.